In my previous video, I explained that the biggest problem slowing down the game's development is the fact that I have many more responsibilities than just writing code for the game. In this video, I'll discuss a few of the potential solutions for the problem. I have no problem managing a team of people, and I enjoy programming, but there simply aren't enough hours in the day to manage a team of people and make significant progress with the game's code. I think that the most elegant solution would be to hire someone to take my place as the game's lead programmer, so that I can focus exclusively on being a director/producer/manager, while someone else writes all the code. However, there is something very important stopping me from pursuing this course of action. When it comes to programming, I'm good at some things, like rapid prototyping or adding new features to a pre-existing system. But I'm not so good at designing modular systems, creating state machines, or writing character AI. To put it in simple terms, I have specialties, but I don't specialize in most of the stuff that Yandere Simulator needs the most. I put forth my best effort, but if a more experienced programmer had been in charge of writing Yandere Simulator's code, they probably would have done a bunch of things way differently. With more time, I could develop my skills, gain new knowledge, and eventually evolve into the master programmer that Yandere Simulator deserves. But that would probably take a while, and I don't think you guys want to wait that long. If I hire an experienced veteran programmer with experience in the Unity game engine to take my place on Yandere Simulator, he's not going to want to work with my code and pick up from where I left off. He's going to want to rebuild many of the game's most important systems so that the game has a proper foundation. We should also port the game from Unity 4 to Unity 5 and port the scripts from JavaScript to C#, because C# has many advantages and also compiles 4.2 times faster than JavaScript. Redesigning Yandere Simulator's core systems, porting the game to Unity 5, and porting the game to C# would probably take several months, during which I can't roll out new updates, because the game would be unplayable while it's being taken apart and put back together again. If I lose the ability to put out updates for several months, this would kill a lot of the hype and interest in the game, which would have a severe impact on something very important: the game's crowdfunding campaign. Yandere Simulator cannot be finished unless I launch a crowdfunding campaign and raise a bunch of money that would be used to hire a team of professionals to help me make the rest of the game. There are many examples of crowdfunded projects that were massive disappointments. A lot of people are now skeptical of crowdfunding campaigns, and rightfully so. That is why, before launching a crowdfunding campaign, I want to release an impressive demo so that people know exactly what type of game they're going to get, and feel safe pledging their money to the project. The builds that are available right now are just sandbox test builds for debug purposes. I won't have an actual demo until after I've implemented Osana, the game's first rival. You won't really get the true Yandere Simulator experience until there's a genuine rival in the game. Osana is the very last piece of the puzzle before I want to launch a crowdfunding campaign. Hype is essential for a successful crowdfunding campaign. Hype dies if I don't update the game frequently. If I bring another programmer on board the project, we'll need to spend several months taking apart the game and rebuilding most of the major systems, during which the game will be unplayable, and I won't be able to put out new builds. This would kill hype, which would damage the probability that the crowdfunding campaign will succeed. So I don't want to bring another programmer on board the project until after the crowdfunding campaign has concluded. And I don't want to launch the crowdfunding campaign until after Osana is complete. We do have the option of deviating from this plan. I could forget about Osana, launch the crowdfunding campaign immediately, assemble a team, begin refactoring the game's code as soon as possible, and then release Osana after the refactoring was complete. But I'm not sure if you guys would really want this. I'm going to describe a few other possible solutions, and then I'll ask you guys to vote on the best one. Another possibility is to stop relying on donations and volunteers and work together with a game company to complete Yandere Simulator. I've already been approached by multiple companies who have expressed an interest in getting involved with Yandere Simulator's development in exchange for a cut of the game's profits. They've proposed deals that involve me giving up 50% of the game's profits, or losing ownership of the game's intellectual property, or removing certain features from the game. These terms are all very unappealing to me, so I haven't agreed to work with any of the companies that have approached me. But it would drastically speed up the game's development to have a team of experienced professionals take over for me, and could possibly allow us to bypass the crowdfunding campaign altogether. This option has upsides and downsides, so it's one of the things that I'm going to ask you to vote on. The proper solution to the game's slow development depends on how you're looking at the problem. From your perspective, the problem is, Yandere dev is so slow. From my perspective, the problem is, I'm working on this game 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, never taking vacations, not getting any enjoyment out of my life, and people are calling me lazy and slow. From your perspective, the solution might be more programmers, or a crowdfunding campaign, or getting the help of a company. From my perspective, the solution might be to change what Yandere Simulator is. Presently, Yandere Simulator is my full-time job. I get paid to work on it. As long as I'm getting paid to work on it, I feel obligated to pour every second of my life into it. As long as I'm getting paid for my time, it's perfectly fair for people to complain if I don't make timely progress on the game. But what if I wasn't getting paid to work on it? What if I closed my Patreon completely? Then I could downgrade Yandere Sim from a full-time job to just a hobby. I would have no obligation to work on it for any longer than I feel like working on it. I would have no reason to give it any more attention than I feel like giving it. I would finally be able to play video games and watch anime again. Nobody could call me lazy anymore. All of my problems would be solved. But all of my fans would hate me. Someone else would develop a Yandere-themed game to take the place of my game. I would fade from memory, and all of the work I've done over the past 3 years would be for nothing. It's tempting to downgrade Yandere Simulator to just being a hobby so that I can take my life back, but it would probably be a one-way street with no turning back. The only reason I'm even considering such drastic measures is because I'm worried about what the fans think of me, because I've been unable to make fast progress with Osana. But maybe it's only a very vocal minority that is actually mad about it. It's possible that among Yandere Simulator's fan base, there exist 2 types of fans. The fans who don't mind how fast I work, don't mind if I work on Osana or work on other things, and don't mind if I take vacations. The other type of fan would take development speed very seriously, would prefer that I focus my attention exclusively on Osana, and would be displeased if I announced a vacation. I'll call them the chill fans and the heated fans. Maybe 90% of my fans are chill and only 10% are heated. Or maybe it's the other way around. Or maybe it's 50-50. Maybe if I make Yandere Sim my hobby, 90% of the fans will still be loyal to me. Or maybe only 10% would remain loyal. If you've been following the development of Yandere Simulator for a long time, you know how I handle these situations. With a poll. Please vote on the poll in the video description so that I can find out if the majority of Yandere Simulator's fanbase is of the chill variety or the heated variety. So, here are 4 different courses of action I could take regarding Yandere Simulator's development. I could stick to the original plan, which is to wrap up Osana, make the game as presentable as possible, launch a crowdfunding campaign, use the money to assemble a team of professionals, find someone who could replace me as the game's lead programmer, port the game to Unity 5, port the scripts to C#, and rebuild all of the systems that I didn't build properly, which would take at least 6 months. After the crowdfunding campaign concluded, you would probably stop receiving new playable builds for at least half a year, since the game would be getting a complete overhaul, and would be unplayable until the overhaul was complete. But at least you'd have Osana. Or I could launch the crowdfunding campaign immediately. I wouldn't spend any further time on Osana, which means that you wouldn't get to have Osana until after the game had been overhauled. This means that Osana would be delayed, but the final game would arrive faster. I'm worried that the crowdfunding campaign might have less of a chance of succeeding if I don't release a demo that provides the experience of taking down a rival. However, I could be wrong about this. Or I could begin working together with a company to bring Yandere Simulator to you as soon as possible. Depending on the type of agreement that I reach with this company, I may lose 50% of the profits I was going to make, I may have to share ownership of Yandere Simulator, and I may have to sacrifice some of the game's more controversial features. But at least you'd get the game faster. Or I could just say, sorry everyone, I need to take my life back, and downgrade Yandere Simulator to a hobby, so that I could finally start enjoying my life again. Nobody could ever complain about the game's development speed ever again, but I'm sure that a lot of people would just lose interest and stop following the game if I did that. I'm not sure if it would be the minority or the majority. Now that I've laid out all of the options, I'd like you to vote. Which of the 4 options I just discussed are most appealing to you? Sticking to the original plan, launching the crowdfunding campaign sooner, working with a company, or just downgrading the game to a hobby? I'd be very interested in hearing how you feel. Well, at this point, I think I've finally said everything there is to say about the speed of the game's development. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and thank you for following the development of Yandere Simulator.